I'm back. I'm back. As I said, right now I'm trying to do my routine and juggling between working graveyard shift and exercise and this channel and just do, just doing what I need to do each day, getting adequate sleep. Um, all that kind of eats up into the time. So I am thinking about doing this video series on a regular timely basis once I get everything organized. So I that explains why I should have had a video yesterday. I was just really too freaking tired to put up one. So I'm just kind of relaxing, and just needed that rest. And so anyway, I'm back and I'm going to do what I like to do, and that's to talk some politics again. And the subject matter is very important because something that's close to my heart. The socialists did pretty good this past week. Yeah, not necessarily in the United States per se, because when a socialist makes a serious attempt to run for president, as one did in 2016 and 2020, the Democratic Party finds a way to cheat a socialist that they find a threat, and to basically rig and steal and deprive of getting the nomination. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. So in the U.S. the Democratic Party shafted Bernie Sanders, and in Great Britain, while the Blairites within the Labour Party and the broader right within Britain, within the Conservative Party primarily, um, smeared Jeremy Corbyn as an anti-Semite, and he was not, by the way. Um, you know, Socialists are kind of like, damn, what are we to do? Um, Depending on where you stand on Venezuela, I have my unique perspective on Venezuela. Socialism is under attack there too by the U.S. government. It's not my kind of socialism per se. I wouldn't call it the worst example of socialism ever. I'm just not. I'm more of a social democrat. So Nicolas Maduro and the late Hugo Chavez would not exactly be my kind of socialism. But the people of Venezuela voted for Hugo Chavez, voted for Nicolas Maduro, and that the United States just needs to stay the fuck out of Venezuela's affair and let Venezuela govern Venezuela. And a stupid policy the U.S. has toward Venezuela. Venezuela is not a threat to the United States in any way, shape, fashion, or form. They are not. They are not. And in fact, if anything, the United States ought to be extending their hand of friendship toward Venezuela. And by doing so, I think that whatever is negative about Venezuela at the moment, the mild authoritarianism that exists, and I do admit there are some authoritarian currents that exist within the government that I don't approve of. If the United States have a conciliatory attitude toward Venezuela, I can guarantee you that light authoritarianism that exists that I'm opposed to probably would likely disappear. And seriously, any objective person, do you think that Venezuela is more authoritarian than China is or North Korea? Do you really believe that? Because I don't. But anyway, I do want to talk about socialism's big win. And we're going to start with a Western democracy in a first world country, because I just want to make a point that socialism is not necessarily contrary to the values of the West. And you got the right wing that wants to paint it as, oh, it's West anti-Western, when it's the epitome of Westernism. As I said, I mean, in Europe, socialist parties get elected all the time. Yeah, occasionally they get defeated, and when the Socialist Party gets defeated in whichever European country, they're like the American right wing who likes to rub it in and say, "You see, the people in Great Britain they rejected the Labour Party and they put in back the Conservatives because they don't like that socialism." Or the Christian Democrats a decade ago in Germany, they kicked the Social Democrats out of power. They don't like that socialism, and it will be that kind of shit, you know. And hasn't it ever occurred to these people that pendulums swing back and forth between left and right? And just because, let's say, if the Labor Party were to win the next election, do you think that the Conservatives will never be in power again in the UK, or that the Social Democrats were defeated in, excuse me, the Christian Democrats were defeated in Germany, that that they will never ever get defeated, and it will be the Social Democrats forever in power in Germany, or the Union for a Popular Majority in France, which is their version of the Republican Party here. If if let's say the Socialists got back in power, that the Union for Popular Majority would never see the light of power again. Get real. And honestly, I lean toward those social democratic parties that I just mentioned: the socialists in France, the social democrats in Germany, the Labour Party in the UK. Those parties are how I'd be voting if I lived in those countries, and I'd be very partisan within those parties over there. Would I want them to govern as a dictatorship, and that no other political parties getting in the way? I would never have it. I would not. I would, in fact, if that were to happen, I would be opposed to those parties if that were to ever happen. So, you know, socialism is not contrary to war freedom, and it's not contrary to Westernism, and people need to get over it. Well, let me give you some good examples of what happened this past week. On October the 17th, 2020, New Zealand had an election, a national election. And the governing party of New Zealand for the last couple of years has been the New Zealand Labour Party, which is a socialist party or a social democratic party, and they have governed New Zealand for the past 4 years. Now, the past couple of years. I'm sorry, I don't exactly know when they trying to think. Helen Clark was the prime minister for a while, and I'm trying to think if the National Party came back. I don't know, but I do know that Jacinda Ardern is their present prime minister, and she's the head of the Labour Party. Well, the Labour Party got back in power in New Zealand. I mean, they were reelected, and the significance of Jacinda Ardern is this. You need to realize this: when COVID-19 hit, they were proactive in New Zealand, and they took all kinds of measures, and there's only like 22 people died in New Zealand from COVID. You compare that to about 200,000 in the United States, and you got to understand, New Zealand already had a socialized healthcare system in the country, so healthcare costs wasn't a concern for the average person that got COVID. They got taken care of, and they took proper measures, and they did it without creating a police state like structure and everything. They did shut down everything for a very short while, but they took some common sense measures, and the government's urging people to take personal precautionary measures and everything, and they've been so successful in New Zealand that New Zealand today is existing as a society at almost the normality that matches the way things were prior to COVID-19 hitting. New Zealand is the one country in the world that has returned back to some semblance of normality, that of a world that existed when there was no such a thing as COVID. That's a good thing, and the people of New Zealand realize that's a good thing. So the socialists came back into power in New Zealand. Wonderful. I like it. And congratulations to Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern for her victory. Now, let's go to the developing world. into Bolivia. Now, in November of last year, November 2019, the U.S. led a coup which ousted Evo Morales, who was the president of Bolivia. Evo Morales, when he came into power, the country the country's economic situation started to turn around. People's lives started to get better, and the economy was actually in pretty good damn shape. It was in very good shape. Um, and his party, the Movement for Socialism, their government were not authoritarian and all of that. It was basically a social democratic government in Latin America. But for some reason, the United States don't like anything that's even center left. And so the United States went and kind of shook shit up in Bolivia, and Evo Morales had to leave, and Janine Anez became the new president of Bolivia. Now, this horrendous person, Janine uh, Anez, she is a racist against the indigenous people of Bolivia, calling them calling them Satanists. I mean, this is the kind of she is a fundamentalist Christian, and I'm not sure if she is like a quote unquote white traditionalist Roman Catholic, or if she's one of those growing right wing Protestant movements that exist in Latin America. That she is a holy roller that took over the country. That I need to do my homework, but I do know that she's a Christian fundamentalist either way, and that and she looks like and I'm not trying to be sexist, but she looked like a porn star that had one too many plastic surgeries to try to look good. Anyway, um, over less than a year, things started to turn around, and the U.S. led coup became a failure. And what happened on October 18, 2020, that was yesterday, that Luis Acre of the Movement for Socialism Party came back into power in Bolivia. So Bolivia is back, and the U.S. led coup in Bolivia miserably failed, and that should be a good thing, because do you expect me to believe what our CIA has to say about things? Remember, the CIA basically accidentally, and I'm not going to say like they did it with intent. You got to look back historically. Look what the CIA done. That when they removed a government in Iran that was friendly toward the Soviet Union in 1953, and put in the Shah. Not that I remember even back then the Ayatollah Khomeini that ruled over Iran during the 1980s. He was a supporter of the Shah initially. So yeah, but 1953 until the present, Iran hasn't really been in tune with democracy, and that's the CIA's doing. Um, that's why I want that awful government right now in Iran to go away, but I don't think the United States will make things better. They don't need the United States involved. And I do believe that within a decade, if the United States doesn't get involved, I believe that Iran will become a Western secular democracy in the Middle East. But that's another point, another time we can discuss Iran in that regard. But the CIA also, remember, CIA assisted Osama bin Laden in the 1980s and the Mujahideen rebels in Afghanistan to fight off those nasty, nasty commies, the Soviets. Now, I'm not pro communism per se. In fact, I never really got too jazzed about Marxist Leninism in any form, whether it was Stalinism of the Soviet Union, Mao's China, or Kim Jong Un of North Korea, or Fidel Castro of Cuba. I mean, it's just not my where I ideologically it's just not my ideological worldview. I'm not really ever been a Trotskyist either. It's just not my thing. Any form of Marxist Leninism is not my thing. I am basically a reformist, center left style social democrat. That's how I describe my socialism. But here's the thing: the United States backed the rebels in Afghanistan, and they drove the Soviets away. And what happened? The Taliban took over Afghanistan. They took over Afghanistan, and the situation we're in today. Look what happened with 9/11. The United States kind of indirectly assisted these forces in Afghanistan, which resulted in 9/11. And we're in Afghanistan since 2001 because of the stupidity of the CIA. And we need to get the hell out of Afghanistan as quick as possible because we make shit worse, you know? And that's basically, that's basically what I'm saying here. There is a book, and I cannot think of the name of the author at the moment, but it was a book called The Wilson Plot. And it's about there in the 1970s, even with the center left around the world, that the United States kind of try to make life tough. The CIA and the MI5 working together to make life tough on labor leaders in, let's say, Great Britain and Australia and New Zealand. And so just think about these things for a moment, and good luck with these center left governments that get elected. But you got to realize that the CIA likes to make things tough for these people. This is why if Canada ever gets an NDP government, New Democratic Party of Canada, ever becomes the governing party instead of just a coalition partner or just a small party in the parliament, that the United States will probably do the same thing. So just kind of bear that in mind. But all negativity to the side, it is nice knowing that New Zealand, that the Labour Party is back, and that the movement for socialism in Bolivia is back. So congratulations to Luis Ekra of Bolivia, and congratulations to Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand. If you like what you heard, press like, comment. If you were triggered, comment anyway. Feel free to share the content on this channel that you deem necessary. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you are passionate about something and you want to build a platform, you already have a platform online, please utilize it, because we are the muckrakers of our time. And I say this as a First Amendment absolutist. So, and more importantly, subscribe. So in a nutshell, like, comment, share, and subscribe. I am American Social Democracy. And until next time, peace. And Bernie Sanders for president, year 2024.